أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور صدق الله العظيم. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Peace and salutations upon the beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the Ummah, upon the friends of Allah. So the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us on this earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, meaning you will be tested and you will face obstacles and barriers. So this place that we are here today in the world is not a resting place but a testing place. So we have to, in our mindset, we have to always realize this, that we're not here to relax, we're not here to enjoy, we're here to do some work. And then when you leave this world, that's when you relax, that's when you enjoy. But whilst you're in this world, then you're not here as a resting place, but a testing place. And the barriers can be divided into 4 categories. There's 4 things. And these barriers are such that it has taken millions and billions of people away from the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has destroyed millions and billions of people. And the 4 categories are the world, the dunya, the nafs, the shaitan, and the creation, the people, and the distractions of the people. Sometimes a person forgets who his true friend is. We might think, somebody's our true friend, and then suddenly something happens, then you realize that the person that you thought was your friend wasn't really your friend, But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let you down. And the true friend is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this, this, you've heard this before. But you have to know the solution to this problem as well. Not just know about the distraction, the nafs is a distraction, the creation is a distraction. But at the same time, money of you. Yeah, somebody says, oh, can you lend me £1,000? But you know that this person has asked previous people before as well, and he's never returned that money back. So you know that it's a trick. He's using a trick to deceive you so he can take £1,000 from you. Or they say invest in this, and there's no real investment, but he's saying, oh, if you put £1,000 in this, you will make £2,000 back. But you know that he's tricking people. So what are you going to do? You're going to give him £1,000, or you're going to stop yourself giving him? You're going to say, okay, here's the money, take it. Yeah, when will you pay me back? Well, I'll give you back in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks come and the payment is not there. And then that's when you know the real person. When you deal with the person, that's when you know him. And it happens many, many times, within the brother circle as well. They say one thing, then they do the other thing. You give them money, you lend them money, you don't get it back. And then you ask for the money back because it's your right to ask for the money back, and they say, oh, I'm not going to eat your money, you're going to get it back, So it was better not to lend him the money in the first place. Now the relationship is broken. Now he's got evil. Every day he's thinking bad about the person, So sometimes you don't see these things until you deal with the person. And then you realize that, that this person was clothed, in the jabba, the mama shape, but really he was a shaitan inside. And it's happened many, many a times where they come in the robes of piety, but really they're shaitan inside. So, so the tricks of the shaitan we must know. First, we have to know the tricks, and then secondly, we must make sure that we don't fall into the traps of the shaitan. But the Mashaykh is saying our problem is that we say shaitan is our enemy, but our actions show that we are the shaitan's friend. We say the shaitan, everybody, is easy to say, oh, shaitan is this, shaitan is that. But then when it comes to refraining from, so for example, somebody says, oh, do you want to make easy money? Yeah, and he says, okay, what do I need to do? Oh, just, a little bit of lies and, this, that, and the other, just a little bit of fraud. And, you can make £1,000, 2,000 for easy money. At that time, it's a test, isn't it? Fighting with the shaitan. Oh, £2,000. Oh, I can do this with £2,000. And that's when the person who thought his iman was strong, then suddenly he becomes like a child in the lap of the shaitan, because the temptation is there, and now he's become like a child. Same way, for example, if we say, yeah, brother, I can protect my eyes, alhamdulillah, I can. But if a beautiful woman walked across, how much would he protect his eyes? At that time is the test. Not at the time when there's no test. You're in the masjid. What is the test in the masjid? The test is outside when you walk, when you deal with people, when you try to protect your eyes, or when you sat with somebody, you sat with a group of friends or a group of family members, and suddenly, you're having food and cha and everything's happening, and then suddenly they start doing ghibat, of somebody else. They're backbiting somebody else. At that time, you sit there and listen to the backbite and enjoy. Enjoying the backbiting is the sin of the ears. Or do you sit there? And that's when the test is. That do you stop him from backbiting? Do you get up and go or leave the room? What do you do? Or do you just sit there? Oh, I'm not backbiting, but you're still listening. You're not stopping him. So these things are a test. So in everyday life, you have to know the tricks of the shaitan. Where's he attacking us from? Be aware of where he's coming from. If you're not aware, then you'll never be able to attack him. You'll never be able to defeat him, because he'll always be defeating you, because we don't know. And this is the whole reason why we come to these gatherings, to learn about these things. And then we say, the Mashaykh says, we say that Allah is our friend. But then practically, we do things that shows that we are enemies of Allah. Na'udhu billah. That's what we show practically. That we say Allah is our friend. How is Allah your friend? You have to do things. So really, what they're saying is that it means that we have not understood the real meaning behind this, but we're just saying it. We're just saying it. So about the world, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the world? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I've created humans and jinns to serve me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now, many people, many scholars, they say this verse, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I've created humans and jinns to worship me. And we created for worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, But the real meaning is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to serve me. Then he said in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I don't want any provisions from you. Allah will provide you. He is the provider and He's not weak in any way, and He's the most powerful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide you with what you need. And in a hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, give to the one who serves me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the dunya, you are my slave and you should become slave to my servant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you are my slave to the dunya and you should give to the one who serves me. And whoever does not serve, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructing the dunya, whoever does not serve me, punish him. So he's punished in such a way by the dunya, he becomes a slave of the dunya. He becomes such a slave of the dunya that he doesn't realize, and then he dies. He dies. How many people here today that we know, yeah, we know ourselves are enslaved by the dunya because they've not understood this point. They just think the more they work, the more they'll earn, the more they work, the more they'll earn, the more their bank balance goes. But that's not the case. Really, they are enslaved by the dunya. When they say, when the Mashaykhs mention once, when somebody opens a business, who's running who? Is the business running him or he's running the business? Isn't it? Who's running who? Oh, I've got no time. Before, person who doesn't have a business, he has plenty of time. He comes to the gatherings, he does the zikr, and then when he opens the business, then suddenly he's just completely disappeared. He can't attend the gatherings, he's so busy that he's just... So what was the point of the business? The point of the business was that you become in such a way that others run the business for you, so you have this free time to come to the gatherings. You have this free time to convey the message of the deen. But it turns the other way around. The person has the business, then he becomes more busy. So who's enslaving who? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning, give to the one who serves me and punish the one, who enslaved the person who does not. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the dunya, the world worshipped Allah for 1,000 years. 1,000 years it was worshipping Allah. And here we have, well, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what our lifespan is, but even the dunya itself was worshipping Allah for 1,000 years. Imagine that. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm going to send you on the face of the earth. What are you going to do there? Yeah? So the dunya comes to the people in different ways. Dunya does not mean money or anything like this. Dunya comes through, it can't come through money, it can't come through women. So it has its different forms. So dunya is anything that takes you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if a person is on his mobile phone all day, every day, and he's on social media, Facebook, this, and that, and he doesn't pray, he doesn't do his zikr, he doesn't remember Allah, then he's enslaved. This phone is his dunya. The phone is enslaved him. So dunya, that's what it means, dunya. Anything that takes a person away from Allah is the dunya. So anything that takes you away from Allah, anything that's taking you from conveying the message to other people is your dunya. When you know there's no external barriers, there's no internal barriers, and you still don't give dawah, or you still don't convey the message, then your dunya might be whatever stopping you from conveying that message. Because the mashaykh's instruction is, if you don't feel like doing it, go and do it. You don't feel like giving dawah, go and give dawah. When you feel like giving dawah, then sit down. Then the nafs is getting involved here. But before, the majority of the people don't like giving dawah. So that means if everybody went out and gave dawah, alhamdulillah, many people would change. So the dunya said, I will serve the one who will love you. So the one who loves you, I will serve him. I will be their slave. I will serve them. I will find them even if they're in the jungle or desert. So wherever they are, they'll find the person. And so I will serve this person. Because this is the instructions of Allah. Hadith Qudsi is not something that is written by a person. It's a Hadith Qudsi. So I will find them, feed them and serve them. This is what the dunya said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once there was a wali who was living in a jungle. And suddenly a woman came with delicious food, and gave the wali the food, So the wali is like, he ate the food and he got a slipper and he started hitting the woman. So he ate the delicious food, then got the slipper, and then the woman went. And this person here, he's watching the scenario here. Then the woman comes to him and gives him low quality food. So there's another man watching all the scenario that's going on here, what's happening here. And he gave him she came to him as well and gave him low quality food. And he's thinking, why is he getting delicious food and I'm getting low quality food? Maybe when the woman comes next time, I should use my slippers and hit her as well. Then I will get maybe good, delicious food. So next day, the woman came again and she served the friend of Allah with good, delicious food. And then when it came to this person, she came with low quality food. And he got his slippers out and he was just about to hit the woman. So the woman said, what are you doing? So he said to her, well, you know, yesterday you gave delicious food to the person, hit you with a slipper. Yeah? So I thought maybe it's the slippers that you need so I can get delicious food. So he's saying this. She says to him, how dare you? How dare you do this? So then she says, it's because of his status that I am enslaved to him. I am the dunya. So it's because he was a friend of Allah and he did not want the dunya. He was serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this woman was the dunya and she came with delicious food. And for you, you're already my slave. So the dunya is saying, you're my slave. I'm his slave, but you're my slave. The money that you have, the clothes that you wear, yeah, everything, you love me, yeah. You are my slave. I'm serving you because you're his neighbor. Because of him, I'm serving you. It's like this. Sometimes we're with our teacher, and sometimes the food gets served to them, but because we're tagging along, we get the same delicious food as well, isn't it? So the same way here, because of him, because of the friend of Allah, he was getting food, but he was getting the low quality food. I'm serving him, I'm serving you because of him. Otherwise, I have a fearsome instruction given how to deal with you, people like you. You know what I mean? Allah has instructed me how to deal with people like you. If it wasn't for him, he would have been destroyed. And this is what's happening in the dunya today, in the world today. So the awliya Allah, the friends of Allah, focuses on the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dunya seeks them, not the other way around. The friend of Allah, they always look for opportunities to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. So the mashaykhs are saying that if you understand this point, then it will break you out of your shell. So whichever shell that you're in, it will break it, you know, and you'll come out of it. And this is the tricks, one of the tricks of the shaitan. So also they mentioned that in terms of whatever's destined for you, you will get that no matter what. So the example they gave was if 5,000 apples are destined for you, then nobody can stop them apples reaching you. It's yours. Nobody. And if it's not destined for you, it was never meant to be for you. Sometimes we make a deal, a business deal, or sometimes, you know, we lose something, we think, oh, you know, I wish I bought it, you know. I wish I made the right decision to buy it. I could have made £1,000 profit. I could have made £500 profit. But that was never meant for you. That's why it never came to you. It was never meant for you. So it never hit you. But we always we regret, oh gosh, I should have done this, I should have done that. It wasn't for you. It wasn't destined for you to come. That money wasn't destined for you to come to you. So same way people, you know, when they protect their eyes and their modesty and they see their friends maybe looking at girls and enjoying, you know, time with women and stuff like this. And the Mashaykh is saying, whatever's destined for you will come in a halal way. Don't worry. You're not missing out on anything. You're not missing out on anything. Whatever's going to come to you will come. So people think by serving Allah and praying and giving time for the deen, they are getting less dunya. So people think that, oh, you know, because I'm praying, you know, I'm losing business. Yeah. But this is a deception of the shaitan. Look at, I think it happens now as well in Makkah and Medina. When the time of prayer comes, they all close the businesses and then they go. They never lose the risk. Even in today's day and age, even in the UK, when business owners, they close their shop, when it's time for prayers and they pray inside, and then after they pray, they open it. And even, for example, taxi drivers as well, if they're at the depot, it's time for namaz, they'll go to the masjid. Does that mean that they lost the customers that were coming? That's what they think, isn't it? That's why sometimes they're at the rank and they think, if I move away from the rank, I'm going to lose a customer. And so they don't pray. They're in the businesses, they don't pray. I know people, they were praying 5 times salah. As soon as they opened the business, I got no time to pray. They're busy cooking food for the people, serving the dunya people, yeah. And then they got no time to pray. Then they don't pray and then they leave. So the dunya just slapped them in the face. It happens. That day for him, they're serving him and then they eat the food and then they go. Or they complain about the food and then they have to give them a discount. So they've lost. So these are the deceptions of the shaitan. Same way with the nafs. So a seeker once went to Sheikh, and this is a very, very important point, for us as well. So a seeker once went to Sheikh and said, the nafs is giving me a hard time. Can you tell it to stop? So he says, yeah, Sheikh, this is the problem. My nafs is always killing me. Is there anything that you have to stop this from happening? The Sheikh says, okay, he's a spiritual Sheikh, says, okay, bring the nafs out. He brings the student and he instructs the nafs to come out and speak to the Sheikh. So he says, oh nafs, why are you giving this person such a hard time? He's trying to take you to Jannah. Yeah? So he's telling the nafs, he's trying to take you to Jannah. Why are you giving him a hard time? Then the nafs says, this disciple of yours comes into my territory and steals my treasures. That's why I'm giving him a hard time. So the nafs is saying this, that he's giving me a hard time. Now we're not going to understand. How is that possible? Yeah? So the Sheikh says, what is your territory and what are your treasures? What are your treasures? He says, heedlessness, forgetfulness, neglectful. He is entering into my kingdom. Now, last time I mentioned that the tricks of the shaitan is that he comes through the mind, yeah? And he comes through the mind, he whispers into the mind, and then if you don't get rid of it, then it gets into the nafs and then you start acting on it. So the first is the thought that comes into the mind. Yeah, and either you take it out, you divert that thought away from the mind. But even before that is the forgetfulness of Allah subhanahu. If you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, automatically the shaitan will put the thought into the mind. Now if you're in the remembrance of Allah, the shaitan is not going to put anything in the mind. So for example, what happens is you're away from the nafs. You understand? So the nafs is there. So the nafs is waiting that you feed the nafs. And the first point of you feeding the nafs is when you don't think about Allah. The moment you stop thinking about Allah, that means, what happens is you start feeding the nafs with other things. So this is what happens. So even before the thought comes into the mind, is the remembrance of Allah dies. So as soon as you realize why you're getting these evil thoughts in your mind, straight away think that is because you're not remembering Allah. At that moment in time, you've not remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you've opened the door for the shaitan and the nafs to come into you. But if you were in the remembrance of Allah, then the shaitan will come. For example, remembrance of Allah, for example, you're drinking water. Oh Allah, make this water beneficial for me. Ya Allah. Yeah, you wearing clothes, Ya Allah, make these clothes, beneficial for me through our cover. Or even thanking Allah, oh Allah, thank you for these clothes that you have given me. So while you even doing everyday things, you're remembering Allah, isn't it? So don't think, you don't have to sit there and think Allah, 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 Allah like this. Yeah? Because nobody will be able to do that. It's very, very difficult. You know. So it means that every day as you're going along, you're walking into your house, you're coming out of the house. Yeah. That's why there's so many du'as of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why is there so many du'as? Every step of the way there's a du'a. Going into the toilet, coming out of the toilet, wuzu, during the wuzu, after the wuzu, entering the masjid, in the masjid, outside of the masjid. There's so many du'as. What du'as means is you remembering Allah. Either you're praising Allah, you're thanking Allah. So if a person does this throughout the day, so he's always been in the presence of Allah, and that means that it's hard for the shaitan to come into you. So this is what the Nafs was saying to the Shaykh. And my treasure, so first of all, the person forgets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the second is, what happens is, either he fornicates, he does something wrong, he has jealousy, he has arrogance, he has pride, he shows off, or anger. So these are some of the treasures, that the Nafs has. So when the person starts getting these things, then automatically. And so he mentioned, these are my treasures, he steals from me these qualities of mine. I don't harm him, rather he harms me and he disturbs me. It's him disturbing me, I'm not disturbing him. He's coming to me. He said, ask your disciple not to enter my kingdom and steal my treasures. If he doesn't come into my kingdom, then I'll leave him alone. I don't need, what do I need from him? I won't bother him. The Shaykh said to his murid, you should enter the kingdom of Allah, which is the presence of Allah. If you enter the kingdom of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I accompany the one who remembers me. The one who remembers Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this, that whoever remembers me, I remember him. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. We always hear this at the start of the dhikr. Whoever remembers Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remembers him. Imagine that. So the one is to remember Allah, and the one is to keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your remembrance. So one is to just remember Allah, and one is to keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your remembrance. That means these are two different things. Like for example, when we pray namaz, when we pray salah, for that 5 minutes we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or some maybe 1 minute, or even 30 seconds. Or some don't even remember Allah, Allahu Akbar, and then they start thinking about other things straight away. Yeah? But, for example, after the namaz, after the person has prayed his namaz, then how long does he prolong the remembrance of Allah? That's what matters. How long does he keep Allah in his presence? So one, when he says namaz, he doesn't have a choice, really, because he's supposed to remember Allah. But afterwards, when he's finished his salah, how long does he keep Allah in his mind? So this is remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, prolonging the remembrance of Allah. I mean, all these things I'm talking about is already on the course. All these things, when I was like looking at this course and when I was like going through it, I realized that all of these things are on the course, but we don't value it. That's the problem. Because there's sheets, there's wuzu sheets where while you're making the wuzu, after you made the wuzu, and you do your prayer, and there's a sheet that says that for half an hour you need to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after the wuzu. There's sheets like that as well. But we don't practice it, we don't act upon it. When we don't get serious on the course, this is where the problem lies. Then we say, why am I not reaching this stage? Why am I not reaching any further? We're not reaching the further because you've not taken the course serious enough. If you had taken it seriously, the ones who have taken it seriously, they're progressing. The ones who are not taking, even the smallest of things, the Mashaykh say, Allah, have the 3 keys in your mind. Allah is watching me. Allah hears me. Allah sees me. The 3 keys. Allah is with me. So when the person constantly remembers these 3 keys, automatically he will become in the presence of Allah. Automatically. But how many times in a day do we say these things? How many times in a day do we remember this? We don't, do we? So this is the problem. The problem is within us, that we're not remembering Allah, and this is what happens. It's like even like when you do, any muraqabah or any zikr of Allah, when you do the zikr, it's not a lip service. It's not a lip service that you speak from the tongue. Your heart is supposed to connect with Allah, and then the tongue is reciting. So the heart is speaking with Allah, and the tongue is doing the zikr. But the heart is not in the presence of Allah, and the tongue is just reciting. And then we say, I do my 20 minutes zikr every day. Yeah, I do it. Yeah, I do my 10 minutes meditation. But, brother, I still feel weak. My iman is weak. Brother, I feel like I want to commit some sin. Why? Because you've not done the zikr properly. If you've done it properly, then He will help you refrain from sin. So forgetfulness, the nafs gets active. So when you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the nafs gets deactivated. So always remember that. So the 3 keys the Mashaykh mentioned, if the person remembers this, then they will benefit a lot. So he said, instead of stealing from the nafs, why don't take the gifts from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Gifts of thankfulness, patience, remembrance, reliance, piety. All these are gifts of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The nafs invites us, but we are the ones who are really oppressing the nafs. The nafs is like a child, a brainless person, which the Mashaykh has given the identity to the nafs. A brainless person. It just has desires. I want this, I want that. Give me this, give me that. And we just here. There's no stopping. And this is why when people don't have a sheikh, a teacher to take them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who do they follow? They just follow their nafs. I want a car, I want a house, it doesn't matter. I want that house, I want that car, I want this, I want that. Or we haven't got the money, it doesn't matter. We can get interest, mortgages. We can get, we just pay interest on cars. But I want this. And before you know it, there's like 20, 30,000 pounds in debt. Because they don't have any guide. They don't have guide. They don't realize, these things will take a person away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they just, I want this, I want this, I want this. And they just follow their nafs. If you leave the nafs alone, it'll leave you alone. And then if you serve the deen, then the dunya will serve you. And if you serve the dunya, then the dunya will enslave you. So the mashaykhs are giving you this formula. The formula for your success. So I'll just briefly cover we've not got enough time, but inshallah next time I'll cover the other 2 points, inshallah, if Allah gives me that life. But so just to go over the formula again, so we just talked about if you leave the nafs alone. So how do you leave the nafs alone? So I'm going to ask questions now just for 5 minutes, inshallah, so you know the formula. So if you know the formula, then you're never going to lose. So can anybody tell me? First I'm going to randomly give you opportunities to answer. If not, then I'll have to pick. So if you leave the nafs alone, it will leave you alone. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So if you leave the nafs alone, if you leave the nafs, it will leave you alone. Yes, Lala? Yes, that's a good point, But before that, there was something that was said before that. How do you leave the nafs alone? Meaning, in a sense that, how does the nafs get activated? Yeah, Brother Shafiq. If you go enter its territory. And what is the territory of the nafs? You think? Huh? Yeah, desires, but there's something before that I mentioned. What do you think will take a person into the territory of the nafs? Anybody? Yeah, Shokan. Yeah, heedlessness. So when the person doesn't remember Allah, so he's automatically gone into the territory of the nafs. And then all the nafs has to do is just push the desires in. Simple. So heedlessness is very, very important. Don't forget Allah. For that moment that you forget Allah, automatically you know that, hang on a minute, the nafs is going to jump into my, he's going to throw in the desires. The shaitan's going to attack me. So remember at that time. So then they mentioned, if you serve the deen, then the dunya will serve you. What does that mean? If you serve the deen, then the dunya will serve you. It's easy. It just? Yeah. So, for example, serving the deen has, what does serving the deen actually mean? Yeah, obviously you praying, that's for your own benefit. But what does serving Allah and serving the deen mean? What does it mean? So anything that brings a person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is serving the deen. For example, it might be your family members, it might be the public, general public. So anything that's making the deen go forward. For example, in this masjid, when classes up, like fiqh classes, akida classes, and you invite people, from outside to come and learn here. So they come and learn, so you're serving the deen. Or you go out and convey the message, so somebody's doing drugs, he's doing alcohol, or he's stuck in a relationship, then you go to him and you help him out, and you bring him to the right path. That's serving the deen. It's even serving the community, or doing things, for example, helping the old people in the community, so that your underlying intention is that they will start becoming more God conscious, aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's serving the deen. So there's many different ways of serving the deen that a person can do. Even like being nice to your neighbor, giving him food, that's still serving the deen, because your intention is that if I give him food, that if I become nice to him, then he might accept Islam. There's one brother, he was feeding the homeless. One brother was feeding the homeless. And we know this brother as well, Brother Nasr from Huddersfield. He was feeding the homeless, and there was a brother with him, a non-Muslim. I think he was 1 or 1.5 years, which I read. He was helping him feed the homeless. And then after that time, he accepted Islam. So imagine that. He was feeding the homeless, and this person was with him, and he accepted Islam. So he's serving the homeless, he's serving the deen, and look what came out of it. So last point of the formula, if you serve the dunya, it will enslave you. So what does that mean? If you serve the dunya, it will enslave you. Anybody? Shokan?
It'll make you become heedless, and you just working, forget Allah.
Yeah. And what is the dunya? What is the dunya? Whatever takes you away from Allah. So that it can be anything. It can be your wife, it can be your children, it can be your mobile phone, anything. For example, you say to your wife, I'm going out for 2 hours to convey the message, and your wife says, well, you're not going, you got this, that. Then that means at that time your wife is your dunya. Because she's stopping you from conveying the message to other people. Or your children, there's so many times, like, I don't understand why the excuse always comes, I've got to do this, whatever you want to do, you've got 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Yeah, do that in your own time. So can you not give 2 hours for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? 2 hours a week out of the 7 days and the 24 hours that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon you. So there's no really excuse. The excuse is that you don't want to do it. And the mashaykhs have said that, in terms of zikr as well, that if you don't feel like doing it, do it. Do it more. Do the zikr. We're not worshipping our feelings, we're worshipping Allah. So if you don't feel like giving dawah, give dawah. You don't feel like giving, doing your zikr, do your zikr. And that's where you're sincere with Allah. And if you're sincere with Allah, then the shaitan cannot destroy. That's what the shaitan says himself. The shaitan says, I will destroy everybody. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you will not destroy the servants, my servants. Who are Allah's servants? The people who are sincerely worshipping Allah. So they don't do it for the feeling, oh, I don't feel like doing my dhikr. Or I don't feel like giving dawah. Who said you're worshipping your feelings? You know. So this as well, this is what's going to help you as well. That whenever you don't feel like doing it, when you say, oh, I don't feel like, once there was a student, and the sheikh, and the student wrote a letter to the sheikh and he says, yeah, sheikh, the people want me to give a bayan, and the people want me to, give dawah and stuff, but I don't feel worthy of it. I'm not worthy of doing this. Then the sheikh wrote back, he says, whenever you don't feel like giving a speech, and whenever you don't feel like giving dawah, go and do it. And whenever you feel like giving a speech, then don't give a speech. So we've got it all wrong, so in our hearts. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first of all make me act upon what I've said and guide us all to the straight path, and to help the mashaykhs convey the message where, mashallah, they're in Turkey at the moment. And grant us the ability to follow upon their footsteps and convey the message to the rest of the world. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ سُبْحَانَكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَبِحَمْدِكَ أَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنتَ أَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ الْعَلِيِّ الْعَظِيمِ.